Thank you. Thank you so much. I know that most of you, by the end of the day, are going to be quite tired of me. So what I like to do is, can we get the slides? Okay. What I like to do is to look at the two sessions in the afternoon as somewhat related sessions. I want to talk about the new age of innovation a little bit now, and then I want to come back and say, if you look at a whole series of books, what does it all lead to in the future? What is the big theme? And that I'll do in the next session. So I like to start by saying what my priors are. I prefer to anticipate rather than to document the past. That means, by definition, you have to look at next practices, not best practices. You have to look at weak signals and connect the dots rather than say, it has already happened, so let us document it because it is safe. So you have to take some risk. And I've been quite fortunate that I've been taking a risk for the last 30 years, and it has worked out okay. Now, I'm sure it may not work out all the time, but so far it is fine. So essentially, the idea is to get next practices and amplifying weak signals. And I want to give you a sense of what my personal journey has been. I started with Competing for the Future in 1994. That was a book, but I did most of the work before then and co-authored it with Gary. Competing for the Future was a big departure from the traditional ways of looking at strategy. For example, it raised the issue of core competence as a new currency, as a new approach to thinking about building new businesses. And it looked at strategic intent or a sense of direction and the long-term view as distinct from strategic planning. So there are major departures, different language system, but it was a pre-internet book. So the first thing you learn as an author is don't depend on your success because there is still a pre-internet book. So I had to ask myself, how do these ideas work out when you have suddenly large number of people connected, first through PCs and now through cell phones? And therefore, we had to revisit, and I did write a book called The Future of Competition. And then at the same year, I also wrote a book called The Fortune at the Bottom of the Pyramid, which is really looking at 4 to 4.5 billion people who were below the radar screen of most organized sector at that point in time. So as you move forward and when you start looking at the new developments, especially in social networks and the spread of the cell phone, digital technologies, and so on, you ask yourself one more time, how is this changing the way we do business? And therefore, the new age of innovation, which was just published about a month ago. What I'm going to do is to argue that some ideas in Competing for the Future is equally relevant. The idea of core competence or accumulated intellectual capital being a new form of currency does not go away. Actually, it has become even more important. But some ideas we have to change. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the new age of innovation, start with that, and then work back into the bottom of the pyramid and combine the two and say, what does it mean for our future and what the implications are. So that will be the second session. The first session, I'm going to at least argue the case or the new age of innovation. That's the plan. That makes sense? Okay. If you really think about the point of departure for all our thinking is the firm as the unit of analysis. We are very firm-centric in the way we as managers think about how we create value. Whether we implement ERP solutions, I'm sure a lot of you have implemented SAP in your companies, right? Yes, no? It must have been a very pleasant experience. Whether it's SAP, PeopleSoft, Oracle, it makes no difference. They're all the same. Whether you're implementing ERP, whether you think about innovation, whether you think about TQM and quality, irrespective of what you do, it is internally firm-oriented, firm-centric view of the world. Even when people talk about supply chain management, it is the firm dealing with suppliers on their own terms. The worst is when we talk about CRM or customer relationship management. It is still very firm-centric view of the customer. I want to know more about you so I can take more money out of your pocket. They call it share of wallet. So in other words, what I want you to think about is our historical intellectual legacy, both as people who build theory and do scholarly work and people who practice management, is a very firm-centric, product-centric view of the world. There's nothing good or bad about it. That's our heritage. So best thing is to start with that, accept it, and then move on. Now, I'd like to ask the question, how many of you in this room have visited a place called Build-A-Bear in the United States, a store called Build-A-Bear? 1, 2, only 2 people? More? Yeah, okay. Good. Build-A-Bear. So, ma'am, how much did you spend? $40. Let's say. Somebody went here. 55. Terry?
More than I intended.
I'm a simple-minded guy. Can you give me a number? About 50. Sir? 50. All of you are business people? You're in business? That's even better. You're a faculty member. Good. You're in business or faculty? Even better. And you're a businessman. How much do you think it costs to make?
Nowhere near 55.
Give me a number.
15.
15? I can buy a cell phone for 15. It's all done in China. Just a clue. 5, 3 maybe.
I'd say 10 to 15 because it's in a mall. The rent is pretty high.
Yeah, but mall is there, but there's a lot of traffic too. You have to amortize all that stuff. So how much? Let's say $5. You paid 50. Now, this is funny for me. Here is business school professor and more importantly, an entrepreneur is going to also talk to us. Why would you pay $50 for stuff that costs $5? What did you pay the other $45 for?
My daughter put it together.
To get your daughter off your hair? Is that an important question for us? I want you to think about this. Is a serious question. I like to start with something very simple, which all of us can relate to. It's a toy. I'll tell you, for those of you who have not seen Build-A-Bear, I'll tell you what it is. It's always good to have 3 or 4 people who have experience so they can tell me and keep me honest. Okay? So if the stuff costs $2 or $3, why do people pay 50? Now, I can all say that you've taken your children, but when you take your grandchildren, I can tell you, you end up spending 100. What are you spending this money for? Why did you spend $40?
Because you believe it's worth it. Experience.
What do you mean experience?
Building their own bears.
In other words, what I find fascinating is if you have some experience with this company, and if you take your child and you see the excitement and your excitement, $60 or $50 doesn't seem like much. People happily